So good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. And we have with us today Mr. Pratik Oswal from Motilal Oswal. And he looks after the passive side of investment into mutual funds and ETFs. Thank you so much, Pratik, for accepting our invite and being here on the show at Masterstroke.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh, for having me out here. Looking forward to the session today. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, all right. So I thought we will do this session on ETF and index investing because it's getting a lot of traction of late. The data points suggest that people are now looking at index funds, especially in the last 1 year. If you see, a lot of active funds have not been able to beat index funds. So it will be good to have your perspective and how you see the world. So, just to kickstart my question, the first thing which I see is this, that most of the AMCs are promoting ETFs and index fund, but Motilal Oswal is one of the most aggressive one promoting ETFs and index fund. What made you do so?
I don't think AMCs are promoting ETFs index funds. I think it's a new category. So it's more like we need to create a market for index funds and ETFs, which wasn't there 3-4 years ago. So I think a big motivation for us is to create that marketplace. We started about 2.5 years ago, and I think so far we've obviously reached a huge milestone in a lot of our funds and like a lot of sort of education. But I having a background in wealth management in the US, I saw that a lot of my investors, a lot of my clients were investing in ETFs, index funds. And also a lot of my clients were investing in stocks and funds outside the home country. So those were two big trends that I saw in the US. And when I came back to India in 2018, I saw that no one was talking about index funds, ETFs. No one was talking about international funds. So I thought this is a good category because I was very, I believe strongly that this would be a big category in the next, say, 5-10 years. And yeah, so far it's been great. So, but yeah, I mean, essentially, we as a group see ourselves as not really active managers, or we have a broking business, which is our biggest business. We have an asset management business, we have a wealth management business. So we are essentially see ourselves as equity experts. So it's very important for us to be a part of passive because again that's also is sort of big. A big part about where sort of equity investments will go in the next 5 to 10 years time. So our tagline is think equity, think Motilal Oswal. So we believe that passive is going to be a big role in the future.
That's very interesting, Pratik. One of the statements you made is that Motilal is on the equity side and you are known for equity. But when you talk about ETF and index fund, there's hardly anything to do. I mean, apart from the creation of the product, what's your take on that?
No, I actually disagree. I mean, I can make the argument that in broking, there's not much to do. You have to press a button, for stock broking. In fact, nowadays it's not even a button. You have a computer doing all the decision making. So I think, understanding how an index fund works, just, trying to communicate to investors what a market cap weighted fund is and how it works is extremely complicated. So I think the expertise comes in not only in execution, but also in the education aspect where, I have to be able to tell people about why they should invest in index funds, how they're different from ETFs, what are the different kind of index funds and ETFs. There are hundreds and thousands of ETFs that are going to come out in the next 5-10 years. So I think it's important that, you have a knowledge base which spans across equities. And I think this is one area where I believe that at least we believe that will be a big part. So I think it's important to have that knowledge leg, which is where we're investing a lot right now.
Wonderful. I think you have a presentation to share with us. Would you like to share the presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you everyone for being here. I think it's good to have such a big audience. I'm looking forward to having a great conversation. So I wanted to start this session by just going through some of the basics of ETFs, index funds. And after that, and I'll obviously do a combination of Hindi and English. That makes sense when I'm comparing both of them. But if I'm not able to share my presentation. If someone can just help me with that. So I'll talk about the basics of ETFs, index funds, how they're different, what are the differences, and what we are doing at Motilal Oswal, and then maybe we can have a longer Q&A session with everyone.
Can we check to share?
Yes. Thank you. I hope you can see my presentation. Great. So, in investing, there are two types of, especially investing in mutual funds. There are two types of styles. One is called active investing. The other one is called passive investing. Active investing is a traditional form of investing where, you give your money to a fund manager and the fund manager decides, what stock to buy, what stock to sell, and sort of all of those things. So you are relying on the expertise of a fund manager to be able to select the right stocks and to be able to give you very high returns. As opposed to active investing, there's a style called passive investing, which is what this session is about, where there is no fund manager. You're essentially building a portfolio of stocks which is meant to replicate an index. So you must have heard of Nifty, Sensex. So the whole point of a Nifty index fund or Nifty ETF is to replicate the returns of the Nifty. So the Nifty goes up by 10%, your fund will also go up by 10% and vice versa. So there is no fund manager. And the idea here is to replicate the underlying index. The most important index is, or the most famous one is Nifty Sensex. But there are indexes all over. There are international indexes. There's commodity like gold. There's silver. There is, I would say, mid cap, small cap, multi cap sectors. So there's hundreds and thousands of products in the index fund space, which is, you also have IPO indexes. You have, different themes also of index funds. So the whole idea about index funds is to, put your money in a very low cost, way, which sort of, helps you track the underlying index better. So let me talk about, so before I talk about index funds, I'll talk about the growth of index funds globally. So as you can see, this is the US, and the US is where index funds, ETFs are extremely popular. वहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे last 10 सालों में index funds, ETFs बहुत ही मशहूर हो गए हैं. और last आप देखोगे 2009 में 2009, actively managed funds were about 80% of the entire, I would say, mutual fund landscape. और अभी हो गया है 50% के कम हो गया है. So I think there's a lot of growth that you've seen in index funds and ETFs over the last 10 years, and people expect this growth to continue going forward as well. So overall, passively managed funds have done well. अगर आप इंडिया में भी देखो, if you see in India also, the amount of AUM that has come in passively managed funds is huge. Now, 2016 में there was only 16,000 crore in ETFs and index funds. Today it's close to 2.5 lakh crore. So ये जो growth हुआ है, almost 15x is huge. And also अगर आप देखोगे तो ये बहुत ही पॉपुलर कैटेगरी हो गया आज इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में. बहुत सारा जो पैसा यहाँ पे आया है, लाइक लॉट ऑफ मनी दैट इज कम इन, वो आया है पेंशन फंड्स से. लेकिन आज के तौर पे हम लोग बहुत सारे रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स और एचएनआई इन्वेस्टर्स भी पैसिव फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करना उनका चालू हो गया है. और हमारे एएमसी में भी मोतीलाल एएमसी, हमने ये बिजनेस शुरू किया था 2 साल पहले. सो वी स्टार्टेड दिस 2 years ago. And our AUM has grown from close to 100 crore when we started to almost 100 times, so 10,000 crore. So, we've had huge sort of growth and success in this category, and we obviously expect to do very well. So, क्या होता है index fund? I talked about what an index fund is. So, very simple, it's a mutual fund. So, it's just like any mutual fund. लेकिन यहाँ पे there is no fund manager. You're essentially replicating the index. It's just like a mutual fund. You can set up SIPs. You don't need a demat account. You can buy at the end of the day NAV. So it's very simple. And obviously the whole point of an index fund is to track the index. Or so that's an index fund. Under passive funds में, तो अगर आप passive funds देखते हो, वहाँ पे there's 2 categories. There's 2 types of funds. One is index fund, the other one is ETF. ETF होता है exchange traded fund. So what happens in an ETF is basically an index fund which is listed on the exchange. So just like buying a stock, say Reliance or TCS or I would say, Bharti, any stock you buy, you can actually go on the exchange and buy an ETF. So you can actually essentially you can buy a Nifty 50 in ETF in the morning and sell it in the afternoon. So the whole point of an ETF is that it's tradable on the exchange, so you can buy it like a stock. Whereas index fund is like a mutual fund where you have to go directly to the AMC and buy your units from the AMC. So that's the broad difference between ETFs and index funds. Both extremely important categories. Both are growing at a very fast rate. So unlike an index fund where you have to go to the AMC directly, like a mutual fund, ETF में थोड़ा बहुत complicated है. So essentially what happens is in an ETF, you don't have to go to an AMC. Basically, you have to go on the exchange and buy units on the exchange. And what happens is on the exchange, sometimes is that the price movements can go up and down. So you have to be very careful about what price you buy the ETF. So sometimes, the ETF price can be 100, but the actual value is 95. So investors buying ETFs have to be extremely careful about the price that you buy in the exchange. So which is why you have market makers, which essentially make sure that the prices are close to, I would say, the value of the underlying ETF. So this is just a broad outcome about how ETF works today and how investors can go out there and buy the entire basket of Nifty 50 stocks in one click through an ETF. So ये है differences between index funds and ETFs. I told you that index funds are basically like mutual funds, whereas ETFs act like stocks. So that's the main difference. But there are also very small differences that you have to note when you're buying these two sort of passively managed funds or index products. So in index funds, your NAV is end of day. So just like a mutual fund, you buy a mutual fund and you buy the end of day NAV. That's exactly the same for index fund, whereas ETF may real time pricing there is. So if you buy the ETF in the morning, the price will be different from the ETF in the afternoon because it tracks the real price of the underlying securities. So it's extremely important. So second is that you don't have to worry about liquidity in an index fund. Okay, if you are to deploy, say, 1 crore or 5 crores or even more than that, the mutual fund will make sure that they give you liquidity. ETF में liquidity is a problem because you're basically buying from a seller. अगर seller के पास units नहीं होता है, so there might be a liquidity problem where you might not be able to deploy all the money. Whereas an index fund is not an issue because you're going directly to the mutual fund to buy it. Third is SIP. In ETFs, because it's like a stock, SIPs, ETFs में भी आप कर नहीं सकते हो. So it's very hard to automate your investments in an ETF. Whereas in an index fund, because it's just like a mutual fund, you can easily automate it. You can set up SIPs. You also don't have to have demat accounts for index funds. So if your clients don't have demat accounts, then you can easily buy an index fund. Whereas, for an ETF, because you're buying on the exchange, you have to have a demat account. So very important is expense ratio. अगर आप देखते हो expense ratio of ETFs versus index fund, expense ratio is slightly different from both. Why is that? And people should not compare expense ratio of ETF and index fund. Usually expense ratio of ETFs is slightly lower than index fund, but ETFs do not include brokerage, STT and liquidity costs. अगर आप वो तीन को add करोगे, तो actually ETFs tend to be slightly more expensive than index funds. So investors have to be careful before they compare expense ratios between these two types of instruments. And lastly, tracking error. Tracking error क्या होता है कि if you look at ETFs and index funds, they both want to track the index, but because of expense ratio, because of transaction cost, no ETF or index fund will track the index perfectly. There will always be a small difference between the return of the index versus the return of the fund, और उसको बोलते हैं tracking error या फिर tracking difference. So you have to make sure as investors is to choose the funds which have the lowest tracking error or tracking difference, and which is why I think you'll always see a slightly lower tracking error of ETFs than of index funds, because you don't have to account for brokerage, STT, and liquidity costs. So ये है very simple reasons about how ETFs are different from index funds. In my experience, at least in India, index funds tend to be preferred because you don't need a demat account. You can set up SIPs. You don't have to worry about liquidity costs on the exchange. So normally क्या होता है, if you have to buy an ETF on the exchange, you end up paying about 1% higher because of liquidity costs. Whereas index fund you get the true price of the end of day NAV. So very important. Index funds are slightly preferred in India so far, I think, what we've seen. But both are equally good instruments for you to track the index. So this is a good slide about how do you choose an ETF versus an index fund. If you had to buy into these for your clients or for yourselves, obviously ETF may you have to look at expense ratio, the lowest. Normally, you should go after the ETF which have not the lowest expense ratio, but within the lowest expense ratio basket. You also have to look at tracking error or difference. I spoke about the difference between an ETF, the index return versus the fund returns. You have to choose a fund which has the lowest difference, because then you're ensuring efficient tracking. And you also have to look at buy and ask spread. What does that mean? That means that the ETF, buying an ETF, the value of the ETF is 99 or 100, but the price on the exchange might be 102. So that's a very bad sign. That ETF should not be bought. You have to buy an ETF where the price should be as close to 99, which is the INAV or indicative NAV. So this is very important. Unlike the US where ETFs are very efficient, India mein ETFs are not very efficient. So you have to be very careful about what purchase price you buy at. Whereas index fund, you don't have to worry, because the AMC makes sure that you're buying at the perfect possible price. But also for index funds, you have to look for schemes that have a lower tracking error and lower, I would say, scheme expense ratio. So this is so why have ETFs and index funds grown globally? Why have they very popular? And one big reason to that is that they tend to do better than most actively managed funds across the world. And this is not only in the US, but all across the world. As you can see, this is basically a chart that shows outperformance of index funds over actively managed funds in different countries. And as you can see, in Canada, for example, there's a close to 90% outperformance of index funds over the most actively managed firms. So this is a big reason to why index funds and ETFs are getting very popular, especially over the last 3 to 5 years time. In India, obviously, what we've seen, at least so far, is that there is not a serious outperformance, but especially in the large cap space, man, we've seen that I think fund managers are finding it very difficult to outperform the index in the large cap space, but not in the mid and small cap space. So extremely important to understand why these things have been very popular in sort of around the world, and now also in India. They are obviously doing a good job as well.
So, what was this 81 and 88 denotes? I mean, in India, 81, 88, and 88.
Yeah, so this is a large cap space. In the large cap space, over a 5-year horizon, index funds and ETFs have outperformed 88% of actively managed funds.
My goodness. So you mean to say that ETFs or index funds have beaten 9 out of 10 active funds?
Yeah, in the last 1, 3, and 5 years in the large cap space. So the large cap space, it's been very difficult for actively managers to beat the index across the board. So I think a big reason for investors today to move to, say, a Nifty 50 or a Next 50 or a Nifty 100 is because of the outperformance that's there. And also what's happening is that the large 100 companies have become extremely efficient. So finding value has become a lot harder, because you have hundreds and thousands of people who are trying to find value in the stock market. So whole point about active investing is to find value, is to buy something worth 500 for, say, 200 or 300. Because of the efficiency in the stock market today, especially in the top 100 stocks, this value has become extremely hard, which is why you've seen a huge outperformance, of the index versus, a lot of the other funds. A lot of this outperformance is also because of costs. So that is something is also, should be accounted for when you're looking at, performance of these funds. So that's pretty much, very simple, explanation. This is obviously Motilal Oswal passively managed funds. So, we obviously are one of the largest managers of passively managed funds in India today. We are the largest, most famous, most popular for international funds, where we have close to 40% market share. But even in the domestic side, we have funds across large cap, mid cap, small cap, multi cap, and also sector, and also debt. So, if obviously people have questions, I'm happy to answer into sort of any of the funds that we currently manage. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Very simple, ETF versus index funds. What are they? How are they famous? And obviously, what we've done in India so far.
Thank you so much, Pratik. That was a very neat, clean, crisp, short presentation. I think people love short presentation to the gist, and this was just perfect. Thank you so much. Very scary. What do you think? What do you say?
Same. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I prefer short presentations also. But unfortunately, if you want to explain something deeply, you have to go slightly on the longer side, But I think, yeah, I mean, as you said, I think people's attention spans are now, reduced. So it makes sense to have shorter presentations.
Yeah. So again, I mean, let me ask you some questions. And this, you know, what is the future of Motilal Oswal actively managed funds then?
No, I mean, honestly, it's pretty good. We manage still most of. I mean, I would say we manage about 40,000 crore, and out of that, I mean, I would say about 50,000 crore, and out of that, 80% is in actively managed funds, and we are doing phenomenally well. Obviously, in all sites out there. So the idea here is to, obviously, be a part of a segment which will do well in the future as well. So our core proposition is obviously active. That's where our core beliefs are. That's where I would say expertise is. But this is something that, as I said, is something we're trying to focus on because we believe this can be a big category for investors.
Actually, yes. So I fully agree with you. It's only a matter of time. We used to say a few years ago that it will take time for active managers to be beaten by index, and probably the active manager will do very well. But I think with your data points showing 1, 3, 5 years in the large cap space, there's no debate that it's going to be very tough. And I read that Jack Bogle, the person who introduced index investing to the world, says it is not going to be easy for actively managed funds as a group to beat index. So one particular active fund can definitely do very well because of a certain concentrated portfolio. But as a group, it is going to be very difficult. And he said 50 years ago, this statement. I mean, what is the role of a mutual fund distributor amid these circumstances?
Yeah, no. So honestly, I think, I don't fully agree with Jack Bogle. I mean, obviously, I have huge respect for him. I think he's a big icon in finance, and he's truly changed the world and made investing simple and accessible for everyone around the world. But if you look at the investment management landscape in the US, and I have been a part of that in the last 5-10 years, a lot of the actively managed money has actually left the mutual fund industry and gone outside. So if you look at the biggest segment in the US in the last 10 years, it's obviously been ETFs, index funds, but it's also been hedge funds, solutions. So in India, if you see, a lot of the focus in actively managed funds is also gradually shifting towards alternatives, AIF, PMSs, and all that. So I think, like in the US, a lot of the actively managed funds or fund managers are probably over the next 5-10 years will move to a more of an alternative climate where they will have a lot of flexibility about which stocks to buy, which stocks to sell. There's less regulations also. So I think that is probably may happen over the next 5-10 years time. But I do also agree that, if you look at history, especially last 5 decades, on the S&P 500, so was launched. So the S&P 500 is a very popular fund. It's an index. It's the top 500 companies in the US. It's a large cap index. And it's been around for almost 5 decades, so 50 years. And in those 50 years, about 80 to 85% of all other funds have either merged or closed down. And within those small amount of funds, maybe a handful of them have outperformed this specific index. So if you look at investing for say 4 or 5 decades, I think it makes sense to put your money in and what we tell investors is that, if someone is investing for say 30, 40 years or even 20 years, for a good part of their money, it makes sense to invest in an index because you don't know what will happen in say 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. But it's also important that, if you have an advisor or a good advisor, it's good to, have a balanced allocation between active and passive. So, look at it from a 3 to 5 year perspective. You can maybe have something called a core allocation where, maybe 40-50% can maybe half can go and say simple index funds, and half can, you can look at outperform the index by 3 to 5 years time. So looking at 3 to 5 years. So I think that's what, has also happened in the US. So I used to have a lot of investors in the US, and, if active one or passive one, they'll have 100% active, 100% passive, but essentially they've had a mix of both. So I think one should be stable long-term, like 10, 15, 20 years, which will keep on growing. And one can be more about the next say, like a 3 to 5 year horizon, where you can, select the right fund managers who you feel, will do well over the next 5 years. And I think that's more for the MFD community. For retail investors, I think the biggest pain point today. And if you look at India today as a country, most of the population, may not be able to say not afford, but, it'll be hard for them to get an advisor because they're doing 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 SIP. So I think for that sort of a base, index funds make things very simple. Instead of you trying to go about understanding 5,000 funds, you can just invest in a couple of index funds or an asset allocation strategy, which can do the job for you. So I think for new age investors, for investors who don't want to, take the thing of, trying to select between so many funds, or if you're DIY or direct, then it makes sense to go with passively managed funds. And obviously, if you're distributor driven, we've been telling investors that you should have a long-term portfolio which you wouldn't touch for many years, and obviously you can add that with a 3 to 5 year sort of portfolio where you can outperform the index.
Wonderful. As a moderator, I will not take sides whether index or active, but when you show us that slide of 1, 3, 5 years in the large cap, the verdict is out. Then why is still a lot of money is going to active management? What is your call? It's because of low marketing or more glamour involved in the active management space, more brokerage to the marketeers, to the distributors. Otherwise, why is the investing public not able to see that 88% fund houses are not able to beat index, which are charging 0.1% or quarter percent fee, as compared to 2.5% fees being paid to active managers? What is the basic reason?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's two reasons. One is I would say a fairly so people like buying high performing funds. People like chasing returns, and you'll never see an index fund being a top performer because you're essentially buying the average of the market or slightly above. And the reason why index funds tend to do better than most funds is because they get slightly above average, but consistently over time. So I think you'll never have an index fund which is a top performer. So you'll never see it there. And that's number one. Number two is lack of education. People really don't know what ETFs index funds are. That obviously is changing slowly with like a lot more education going out there. And third is also, I think, the commercials don't make sense for a lot of, especially distributors, where, it's very hard for you to be compensated by selling index funds. So I do think that is also like a sort of a thing which is not which is sort of hindering some of the adoption of index funds and ETFs out there. I mean, obviously ETFs is like buying a stock. So I think there is almost no distribution happening there. But on index funds also, I think the commercials are a lot less, which is why I think you're seeing less adoption. But we see it's slowly changing. We have a lot of IFAs, distributors who are adopting index funds, ETFs, and they have actually seen a lot of success because they've seen a lot more AUM coming in. So I think, yes, the distribution is less, but with AUM increasing, they are able to, garner more assets and all of that. So I think it will take time. I also believe that over the next 10 years, like in the US, a lot of distributors will become advisors, over the next, say, 5 to 10 years time. And when that shift happens, you'll see, I would say, a much larger uptake of, ETFs and index funds from customers. These are some of the reasons to why, we still haven't seen, crazy growth out there. But things are changing. I think the base is very small, but obviously it's happening in a sort of slower rate than what most people imagine.
A new fund house has recently introduced index funds at sub 10 paisa. There is a competition going on in the ETF and the index space. Vanguard probably charges 4 paisa or 3 paisa in the international markets. I mean, what is left for the AMC to be in this business? I mean, even if you garner 10 times, 50 times business, first of all, the scope is not there to garner 50 times from the active management. So let's say a Motilal AMC is doing 50,000 crores in actively managed product versus a 50,000 crores in a passive managed products. There's a huge difference in the revenue, both to the AMCs as well as the distributor. And there is no end to competition. For example, if you are today charging 0.25% and some AMC is charging 0.5%, you have an edge. And if there is some AMC who will come at 0.1%, what is the value addition of other equity or ETF fund providers? I mean, why will a fund house be chosen? The cost structure where is high.
Yeah, it's a valid question. So I think profitability is a concern for a lot of AMCs. I think that is, I mean, and number one, Vanguard, talking about the US story, there, I think the prices have only gone the last 10 years. If you look at the last 50 years, Vanguard started at 80 basis points, 90 basis points, zero point 0.9, zero point 0.8. And after they've garnered hundreds of billions of dollars is when they sort of cut prices. Whereas in India, I think the opposite have happened. We've already cut prices. So I think we have to rely on high AUMs for us to make some money. So I think profitability is a big concern. And I do feel that, recently, which is a good sign, you are seeing AMCs increasing their expense ratios, which is making it easier for AMCs to at least, because honestly, if you have this entire undercutting, it will ultimately ruin customer experience and make it difficult for AMCs or even customers to adopt it. So I believe it's a good sign that, prices have come down. So for example, like a Nifty 50 ETF for an index fund used to be 1.5%. I would say 3 or 4 years ago, that's come down to, I would say 0.1%. So in a way, it's been good for the customer, but I think over the long term, it's still challenging for AMCs in this scenario where everybody is undercutting each other. So I think and obviously you would rely on huge AUMs, I would say, to compensate for, I would say, the price points here.
I think another issue in India is you can't advise on index fund and charge a fee if you're a distributor. And if you're an investment advisor, you can very easily charge 0.5% on the portfolio and you can put an index fund there. So, with a combination of active and index fund, you can still have a compensation of 0.5% the customer will pay you. Whereas, so how can a mutual fund distributor compete with an investment advisor in this space? Because if he sells index or ETF, there's no reward and he can't charge a fee. So he has to stick to actively managed funds because it just doesn't make sense for a distributor to sell index or ETF at 0.05 or 0.1 or 0.2%, considering the size of the market and the service and the support and the component of work required. Don't you think this is a big challenge for mutual fund distributors to sell index and ETF fund in India?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a challenge. I don't think that it is a challenge, because in the sense that I think I mean the AUMs are increasing in a very big way, and essentially what's happening is that a lot of customers are looking for our advisory services more and more. So I would say that a combination, as I said, of promoting actively managed funds and as well as passively managed funds works the best, because you are getting the best of both worlds. And I do believe that ultimately the customer is paying for a good price. And so I do believe that maybe not now, but we have had a lot of case studies in our own group. In my own, I mean, I have a lot of clients who are distributors who have benefited of doing a bit of both in their client portfolios, and it's been perfectly fine. But as I said, at least to me, the main role of an advisor is less about fund selection, is more about behavioral management. I would rather have a client buy an actively managed strategy, and which is fine, which is perfectly fine, but also the behavior has to be managed, which I think
how do you address the client at some point of time when he reads Economic Times or Value Research and says that, you see, Motilal X fund is giving 19%, and Motilal same large cap index fund is giving 21%, and you are not beating. How do that distributor convince the client that to manage your behavior, I have to sell you an active fund?
Yeah, so I don't believe that an actively managed fund needs to continuously outperform the index year over year. So I mean, I'll give an example. We've had a PMS since 2003, and we've had 3 times where we've managed to underperform the index. But we've obviously, if you look at our performances inception, it's been much more. So I do believe that when you're looking at a strategy, there will be periods of outperformance and underperformance. That's perfectly normal. So I think an investor or an advisor needs to be able to communicate that to the client and tell him that that there's obviously a strategy, and maybe in this sort of a market condition that strategy has not been working, but when the market does come back, or whenever the strategy comes back, you would see that the strategy will outperform the index. So I think it's almost I mean, I can't think of any mutual fund company in India which has managed to consistently beat the benchmark year over year for the last 10, 15 years. It's not happened. I don't think it happened in the next 10 years. So I think the strategy is very important, and it's very important to sort of make sure that strategy has been consistent over time to ensure that this fund actually is run well. Because I'm a big believer actively managed of funds as well. I think if you understand a strategy and if you're sticking to a strategy for a very long time, it will do fairly well. And I think the problem is because the entire sort of digital wave that we're having, people check their NAVs every day and every year and they keep comparing. And I think the bigger problem is not, I mean, the bigger problem is the fact that, people tend to really like these high performing funds and they keep churning their portfolio, which is obviously like a short way of losing money over the long term.
Correct. So, is there any data available on outperformance in the mid cap or the sector indexes or the small cap space? Any good data available?
Yeah, so I think even in mid cap space, it's getting difficult. So from what we've seen in the last say 3 years, 1 to 3 years, so it is, I would say, about a 50-50 chance of a fund beating a benchmark or not. In a small cap space, there's been a lot more outperformance of actively managed funds because essentially small cap tends to have very not valued, but under researched companies where I think you are able to find value in a lot easier way than you can find value in, say, larger mid cap. So I do believe that people have seen that it's much easier for you to buy an actively managed fund in smaller mid cap space than it is on the large cap. But also I think last 3 to 5 years has been challenging in the mid cap space as well, where we have seen that not a majority, but about half or a little bit more than half of the funds haven't managed to beat the index.
So, is it a good idea that to begin with mutual fund, and this program is primarily driven towards mutual fund distributors. So I'm trying to ask questions from their perspective. Is it a good idea for mutual fund distributors to start shifting their large cap investments to index, or maybe to flexi or mid cap or other categories, to propose a value proposition to the client? Because your data point suggests that it's extremely hard to beat actively index fund by the large cap category. And the moment they shift to small cap and mid cap, the risk profile of the client goes up.
Yeah.
Now, how do you address this? I mean, is there the only way is to sell index fund for MFDs? Because at 0.1, 0.2%, and as I understand, Motilal is probably a little better in terms of the cost structure for the distributor, so that you have a structure wherein it actually gives some space to mutual fund distributor to work in an index fund rather than some of the AMCs who are giving you not even 0.1%. So that's a starting point. But I think over the years that will also come down, and essentially index will come to a play of 0.1, 0.2% only, which is not sustainable at any level of AUM for mutual fund distributor. So either you increase the risk of the client by getting into small cap or mid cap into actively managed, or you underperform. So it's a big issue for mutual fund distributor, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, the strategy matters a lot more than fund selection. I keep telling investors is that 90% of your long-term returns is not due to fund selection; it's due to asset allocation. So how you deploy your money across different asset classes, large cap, mid cap, small cap, gold, international, real estate, whatever it is. I think that is a lot more important. The entire financial planning, the entire goal-based investing, like the entire sort of advisory aspect, or trying to make sure you reach your client goals, is a lot more important. And whether you do it by active or passive, to be honest, it doesn't really matter in my case. I think passive is cheaper, but active, if you have the expertise, you can obviously go ahead and do it. But I think what's important, as I keep telling investors, is I think the advisory, the behavioral management, the asset allocation, the financial planning, the goal-based investing, which, to be honest, it's very hard to do. I mean, AMC cannot do it; we're not allowed to do it. But the entire advisory or the distributor committee, the entire sort of community, can do it. So to be honest, I mean, I put all my money in one actively managed funds, for the last 10 years, and it's fine because it's simple. It doesn't really bother me too much. But I do believe that the most important bit for an advisor is that outside fund selection. which is where long-term returns are according to the risk profile. I also believe, yes, I think if you find a large cap strategy that works well for you, then you should go ahead with that. It's perfectly fine. And I also believe that you should obviously I think invest as per your risk client's risk profile. So just because you can buy a high performing small cap fund doesn't mean you should sell that to an investor. Ideally, most investors should stay away from small cap funds because they're extremely risky. And in fact, in India, small cap funds over the long term have not done well also in terms of performance. So I think overall, I think it's all the other stuff outside fund selection that matters. How you do it with actively managed passive funds, to be honest, is not really relevant as much, because if you understand that even in the index funds underperform the index by a small amount, not a very huge amount. So I think what's really important is what you believe in as an advisor, and I think yes, a combination of both makes sense, as I said, for an advisor, and that's how it will probably happen in the next 10 years. Maybe not soon, maybe not sooner. But as I said, I think there's a whole world outside fund selection, which I believe is should be the focus area. That behavioral management should be the focus area, which I believe where I think clients really sort of understand the value of an advisor or a distributor.
I fully agree with you. I think the message from the distributor has to be that, look, if I sell you an index fund, of course, the first strategy for distributors should be that they should have some index and ETFs in the client portfolio, so that a beginning is made, irrespective of the brokerage that one gets, so that at least they can tell the client that you have started on the journey of ETF and index fund, because there's absolutely no hiding from the fact that they are the future. 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years is the only question. And you showed that slide that in the last 10 years, in a market like US, from 80%, we have come down to 55% the active management space. That's a huge data point. So half of the world's biggest market money is probably now in ETFs and index funds. So in India, probably the same will be replicated in the next 5-7 years. And if you start considering the fact that half of the wealth will be into direct and half of the wealth will be into ETFs and index funds, so there's only a pie of 25% of the investor, which will probably be invested into through mutual fund distributors or in the actively management space. So this is going to be a very challenging space for distributors. But I think end of the day, the water will find its own level, because if the volumes go up and certain strategies will pay out, because we have to see that how the other spaces other than large cap operates. But I think the writing is on the wall. It's going to be very, very challenging. And now, Prateek, ETFs are cheaper. Now, if you hold ETF for 5 years and 10 years, the cost of brokerage is only at the time of buying. Now, do you see that the trend, which is probably going to go towards index fund in the first 5 years, will suddenly shift towards ETF?
So I agree. If you're buying, I mean, you obviously have to be careful about what you're buying at what price in ETFs. But yes, I mean, as you said, you're paying brokerage once, you're paying STT once, and even the purchase price is exactly the same. But to be honest, if you look at the difference in the pricing, it's almost negligible, between index funds and ETFs today, maybe 5.5, 0.5, 0.10. And if you want to set an SIP, if you want to do something like you don't want a demat account, if I think people in India generally prefer the mutual fund route than the stock route. And also I think in index funds you have the entire direct and regular plan and all of that. So I do believe that index funds are probably going to stay a lot higher in India than in the US. The reason why ETFs are popular in the US is actually not because of expense ratios, because of tax. ETFs have a much lower tax liability than index funds because of regulatory reasons. And also ETFs can, while rebalancing, ETFs, you can do something called tax loss harvesting, which you cannot do with index funds in the US. So I think in the US, it's very clear that, ETFs are a lot more tax efficient than index funds, but in India, they're exactly the same. Plus in India, you have liquidity costs and all of that. So I think in India, at least, I believe it's going to be 50-50, even over the long term, even though I think, it's slightly cheaper product.
That was wonderful. I will have one last observation and your comments, and then we will take some questions from the audience. I had a talk show with Sankaran Naren of ICICI a month back, and he made a brilliant point that in the future there are going to be only two kinds of fund managers: mediocre fund manager and exceptional fund managers. There's not going to be an average fund manager because of the outperformance and actively management space. And I asked this question to him also about the index investing, and he said, and this is a very pertinent question, and so you have to look for an extraordinary fund manager because mediocre world will be all over. So what is the future of fund managers in India?
I mean, I actually don't believe that in the future we'll have. I mean, I would respectfully disagree because extraordinary fund managers tend to underperform the most and also outperform the most. If you look at the history of extraordinary fund managers in the US over the last 5 decades, they've had really good years, but they've also had really bad years. So I think you really have to, if you are going after a fund manager, exceptional one, you have to accept periods of outperformance and underperformance, but over the long term, obviously you see good performance. So so I believe that yes, you have to have a strategy and you have to be consistent, and you obviously have to be smart enough to be able to pick the right stocks at most of the times. So I do believe that yes, over the long term, you have to be exceptional for you to really go out there and garner business, or if you do something very different, for you to get attention and sort of beat the average, which I think is going to be harder and harder going forward because of how efficient the markets are, globally. So that's what I would say. I think, especially in this context.
Very nice. It was nice to have you, Pratik. Thank you so much for giving such a nice, straight talk on ETFs and index investing. And I think we have a long way to go in this space. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to take any questions in the Q&A or the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of questions. I would love to answer maybe a few of them.
You can pick and choose.
Okay, so we have a few questions in the chat group. Maybe I'll address a few of them. So so Sumit asks, last 3 years we're seeing a large cap stock come with premium price. Do you think that's why actively managed funds not beat the benchmark? So I actually agree with that, Sumit. So the reason why large cap spaces underperform the benchmark is because a lot of fund managers. So if you look at tend to not really buy the highest or the biggest companies. They tend to buy good companies who are going to become bigger. So I think a lot of the underperformances come from the fact that the big has actually become bigger over the last 5 years, which is why a lot of people have underperformed. As you have more sort of smaller companies that are now sort of changing the tide, you might see those same funds coming back in favor. So that's a good question. That's a good observation. So there's a question on how do you see actively managed funds going forward? I think great prospects. The only issue is that what we've seen is that there is not really a I would say consistent strategy which sort of the market. I think when I see those hundreds of funds out there in the marketplace, my view is a lot of them are actually quite similar. They don't have a consistent strategy. And a lot of them don't have a philosophy that you go for, because what's really difficult about fund management is that you have to stick to your strategy even though things are bad, and that is something. And what happens is a lot of fund managers tend to get swayed from their strategy. So the same report that I showed right now in my presentation, they have something called fund manager drift, which is that if fund managers have a certain style of investing, what is the drift from that strategy, and that's pretty high in India, which is concerning. So, fund manager who has had great success might shift his or her strategy based on market conditions, which is not a good thing. So I think that style drift is a big problem. But overall, I think both are going to do super well. A lot of the actively managed funds are going to go into the PMS and AIFs and hedge fund category, which I spoke about earlier. So so in distributor point of view, index funds have no commission. I disagree. I think we as an AMC are giving out close to 60 to 80 bips or maybe more than that also in most of our index funds. So yes, it may not be 2% or something like that, but yeah, what I've seen is that it's basically like a volume game as opposed to I think a percentage sort of this. But yes, I do agree. I think one big laggard for index funds is the distribution commission, which were capped by regulations. But I do believe that, if you look at India today, barely anyone is investing. So anyone in this business today will really do well over the next 5-10 years time, because the scope is absolutely tremendous. Today a bank account is giving you 3%, 3.5% post tax. So the only way you can really create wealth for society is to invest in mutual funds, to invest in equity, invest in buying businesses. So I do believe that because of the lower interest rate scenario that we have, next 10 years is going to be a rocket ship for mutual fund industry. A lot of people are going to shift a lot of their assets from, say, a bank or a savings account or something like that to a higher sort of earning instrument. So I do believe that the volume is going to come in immense in the next 10 years, which is why, if you see even in the fintech space, I think wealth management is now becoming a big deal because of the sort of traction that they've got and the sort of money that's come into the market in the last sort of 5 years, and also going forward, it's going to go up multifold. So I think big opportunity, and I think like there'll be a huge opportunity to garner AUM over the next 5-10 years time. So it's a great business to be in. So I think there's a question of from what is the need of the AMC to buy ETF? These can be purchased from the stock exchange. So I disagree with that. So the AMC has asked, so we have 4 ETFs, and it's very important that we ensure that prices are close to value. So I have a Nasdaq fund which is 4,500 crores. I have to make sure that the 100 price of the Nasdaq fund and the price issue in an index is very similar, or on the exchange is very similar, and that requires me or my fund management team to make sure there's enough liquidity in the market, to make sure we're compensating our market makers and making sure that things are aligned to make sure people are getting the best possible price on the exchange. In fact, it's very delicate, buying, I would say, maintaining prices at ETFs. So yes, there's no fund management job. We just have to take the money and deploy it. But in managing the ETF, there's a lot of complicated stuff that we have to do in the back end. So there's a question of, will technology take over when it takes a decision to making while selecting a fund? Yes, I do agree. I think, selecting a fund, as I said, is really not as important, as financial planning or trying to figure out how to maximize your customers' wealth according to the risk profile. So I do believe that, just like in broking, most of the broking business today is discount broking. But there is so even in, say, buying mutual funds, it may not be as important. But what really is important is advisory. I've been in this business for 2 years, and the number of people who have asked me, what fund should I buy? What fund should he buy? What are my goals? What are my aspirations? And how do I get there in, say, 5, 10, 15 years? That is something where technology is not able to do very well so far. Number one. Number two, managing emotions. Suppose the market falls by 30, 40, 50%. How are you going to manage your customers' behavior is something that technology cannot do. And the third is time. How do you convince your customer to invest for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years? So that is somewhere where I think expertise comes in. So I do believe that even the US market, and US is a very evolved market. Robo-advisors or technology investor apps have not done well. It's the advisors who have done well, because people understand the value of, people don't really know a lot about investing. So I think having an advisor is a huge value add, and that is one thing that technology has not able to disrupt, even in this industry in the US. And I don't think that's going to happen in India anytime soon. So there's one question of, out of the equity investment, 50% should be index and 50% in active, middle, small cap. What is your view on the strategy? I think it really depends on the customer's risk profile. My actually equity investments would be more towards asset allocation, where I would basically spread my clients' portfolios or amount into different asset classes. So I would do equity, I would do debt, I would do international equity, which I think is extremely important, and I would do maybe a little bit of gold or real estate. So I do believe if you do 50% index or 50% active, it doesn't really matter that much to me. Yes, index is simpler. Index is a little bit more long-term. So you don't have to worry about changing the portfolio or worrying about performance. But I think what's really important, as I said, is how you allocate your assets to your client portfolio, which is where the value addition really comes in.
That was wonderful. I think this was very short, crisp, to the point. And actually, there's nothing much about index and ETF, because it's so straightforward. Because one, bad thing about passive investing is that there's no excitement. And the best part about passive investment is that there's no underperformance. So you don't have to deal with underperformance when you speak with the client and create a portfolio for them. And that's a very big relief that you don't have to, it cuts your time of research for mutual fund distributors and to do any active management on the portfolio. And over a long period of time, the client will make money. So I think that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Prateek, for joining us and giving us this insight. And we will also upload the video on the YouTube, and probably many more distributors over the period will watch this and gain from your insight. Thank you. By any chance, do you remember Vatsal Poddar, who did an internship probably at Motilal 4 or 5 years ago? By any chance?
What's the name?
Vatsal Poddar.
No, I wasn't in Motilal Oswal 4 or 5 years ago. I was in the US.
Oh, you're not there. Okay.
Yeah. I've only been around for 2 years. So yeah. So,
all right.
Still learning a lot about the industry.
No, I think you have quite a good grasp about the industry as well as the passive investing, and it was quite good learning to be with you today. Thank you so much. All the very best. Stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you so much, all of you, for joining this event. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for having me out here, and I look forward to for more sessions like this. Thank you, Brajesh. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.